This is a continued discussion from the previous episode of Nose to Tail, a podcast where we explore the world of aviation lifecycle solutions, insights, and more. Presented by Jet Midwest.
Let's maybe talk a little bit, get away from talking about the shop a little bit, talk a little bit about maybe just the aviation marketplace in Miami. I've spoken with a couple of folks on the podcast who are from Miami, and there's certainly has its own environment, its own community of aviation. And maybe want to get your feel for how that community is and maybe where it's going. We talk about aviation lacking human capital. And a lot of it works through those Miami shops and a lot of those Miami companies. So maybe you guys can give me a flavor of what it's like to be part of that community and maybe the pluses and minuses of having to manage Miami in itself.
Everybody went to CFMs. Everybody in Miami went to the CFM business. And we got going like, well, we don't want to do what everybody else does. So that's why we went to the wide bodies. That was how we got, Bonus Tech started out just doing wide body engines because back then there was JT8s. You can do one in your garage, you know?
Right.
So we went to the JT9s and we went to the CF650s and we said, okay, you can't do that in your garage. You're going to need a facility. You're going to need a larger forklift, you know, the big facility to do it and a big gantry to do it in. So that was kind of what we stayed with at the beginning. And we've kind of tried to stay true to that going forward now, where when everybody else went to CFMs, we went to 4000s. We were a little early for the 4000, so it didn't quite work out the way we wanted. But hey, you know, that's how we've kind of stayed away from what everybody else is doing. We kind of try to find something besides, you know, we don't want to be competing with everybody in Miami because everybody in Miami is doing CFMs right now.
Yeah. From a business model, I get that. So from a Miami standpoint on the operational side, what's it like bringing in talent or having talent move around? What challenges do you see there?
I had to breathe now. It's hard. Turnover has gotten better than it used to be for right after COVID. We're like the training ground for the majority of the mechanics for them to transition to other places. So we have a lot of talent, but at some point they'll tend to leave. So that's kind of hard. But Miami, you'll be amazed to see how many people come from one shop to another, from one shop to another, to one shop to another. So we'll be like, oh, what shop you came from? Okay, we know that shop. What shop you came from? Okay, we know that shop. And then most of the guys will end up in the same shops, come back and forth. We have a few guys come back, which is nice. And then they get that extra experience as well. So it does help in that area. It's a lot of different businesses doing a lot of similar things.
Yeah. Is there a particular engine type that you enjoy working on?
The G90s.
G90s?
Yeah. And now the Trent 900s. Interesting.
How much Trent 900 have you guys dabbled with?
Not many, not yet. We've only got a few. We're ready for them, so that's a good thing.
That's fantastic news to hear because it really is a niche market.
It is.
So for all those you don't know out there, that's an A380 motor. Obviously, the A380 marketplace post-COVID has recovered, but it looks much different, right? It's
completely
played much different. We've been dabbling in that for a couple of years and did some opportunistic work there. So our hope is that marketplace stays strong. It's very niche. We were big into the Fokker 100 marketplace. 2014, we were the first people to tear a Fokker 100 down. And it was a similar market. Not very many aircraft were made. There were maybe 280 Fokker 100s made. And we got very deep in that marketplace and became one of the go-to 4 or 5 companies in the world. There weren't that many companies. That I kind of perceived the A380 similarly, although being a regional jet versus maybe a jumbo jet actually has created the customer base is much different. Even though it's a smaller customer base than we're maybe in size, they're all mega companies. There's not a lot of guys out there with 4.
No.
You just don't exist.
No.
If you have 4 of them, you're probably going to go, maybe you won't go broke, but I can see the financial challenge.
It'd be tough.
Aircraft. So, well, that's awesome. So, Trent 900, are there any other things right on the horizon, either from a technology standpoint maybe, or from a product line standpoint?
Not at this time. We're not looking at developing one. Basically, we're waiting on you guys.
You're waiting on me?
We're waiting on the customers to tell us what they need.
We do it based on the needs.
We're not a big fan of you build it and they will come. We're build it. You need it, then we build it.
We have a habit. The customers like, hey, do you by chance do this? And we're like, no, but give us a bit.
Yeah.
We'll come back. We do this now. Are you interested still? Yes. Okay. Well, let's do it. So we tend to tell you towards that.
So from a business balance, how much of that business is the aftermarket or leasing companies versus directly with operators?
No, we hardly do any for the operator. It's pretty rare. Even the operators have now their company that does the parts. So we're not really doing it for the operator. We're doing it for their parts company.
Yeah.
And it's always been that way. We've rarely done engines for the airline. So it's for parts companies or for the OEMs now. We're actually doing a couple for the OEMs for doing teardowns. So, and of course, it's their parts company also from the OEMs. It's the same thing. Everybody's got their niche to handle the part.
Well, let's talk maybe a little bit about business development, getting in the field and getting a sense of the travel schedule that you guys have and how you guys really operate in that field for the trade shows and where you guys are seeing the most impact right now.
MRO, it seems like to be our hit. Everybody's there. We get to see all of our customers in one place. It just fits us really well. Now, we do a small presence in the MRO Europe.
Yeah.
And some of the other smaller venues, but the MRO is it. I mean, that's our bread and butter. We see everybody there.
So is the majority of the motors you're getting, most of those are coming out of the North American marketplace?
The majority, yes.
But we are seeing a little bit
From
more in
Asia,
Europe now.
yeah.
We have 2 or 3 customers in Europe now.
And Asia as well.
And we just recently got one out of Asia. Since we started doing the Rolls-Royce, we're starting to get a few out of Asia now.
Nice. Certainly it's a global market for us. An airframe part is pretty easy to ship.
Yeah.
Even if it's large, something like an inlet cowl, it still doesn't really weigh that much.
No.
But when you got to ship an engine and put it into an airplane or put it on a boat, send it, certainly there's more challenges there. So I can see
time frame challenges for sure. Yeah.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
What is the time frame to knock out a GE90?
G90 about a month and a half, depending on the propulsor or the fan is also included.
And again, for those of you out there who maybe aren't familiar with the GE90, the fan section of the GE90 is so oversized that it actually comes off of the front of the engine. And then you have the propulsor, which is the balance of the engine. And then you have the fan section as its own. And it's designed to be independently managed. I know that the Air France facility in Paris handles the fan. And we were in that shop talking to them about engines maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And before COVID, so it's probably 2019.
It's a little bit further back, yeah.
They had fan sections completely torn down. I mean, every washer things were just completely bare. So it was interesting to kind of hear from them, their perspective about the build-up and things.
Well, that was one of the interesting things when we first started talking about the G90. They said, well, don't worry, you don't have to worry about the fan. You're only going to get the propulsors.
Yeah.
Well, except we're in the United States and everybody just drops it, puts it on the stand and sends it to us. And we get this engine in with a fan on it. We're going like, now what do we do with this? We're not tooled up for the...
You're going to have to figure it out.
Yeah, that's basically what we did.
Gabriel's got this.
Usually what happens, there's an engine outside. Let me take a look. My turn? Your turn? No, you take it. It's my turn to bring it in. Okay, I got it. Yeah, it's not pretty to play with.
GE90 engine has as much thrust as the Apollo rockets. It's an amazing amount of thrust to be created in a huge engine. Even the transport is challenging with that fan section installed. And even the inlet cowls that I mentioned earlier, those actually split in half into C-sections so that they can be travel in small crates. Pretty nice piece of engineering for the 777, if you ask me. Yeah,
it's one of the reasons why Air France... when we first started doing the G90s, they came out giving us tooling and help. We ended up getting engine stands to be able to help customers facilitate the needs with the G90s since it was so hard to come by at first. So we have the shipping stand and we have the carrying stand. So it helps, makes a big difference.
Let's talk maybe about, I ask everybody what their favorite aircraft is and maybe why. And so Gabriel, if you had to pick a favorite aircraft, what would you pick?
I don't have any preference, to be honest. It's funny because I saw these questions beforehand and I was trying to think of which one I would prefer. I don't have a preference, honestly.
So you'd be okay flying from Chicago to Dubai on an Embraer?
No, that's different.
Oh, okay.
That for me is just the travel itself. So it's just the objective of the destination is my thing. The plane itself, I mean, if I have to go and have to sit in it, well, I'm gonna have to go and sit in it.
Yeah.
So I'm a smaller guy than most, so I tend to fit in smaller spaces, no problem. And I'll have less complaints than the big fellows with less leg space. So I can't really complain there too much.
Jeff, what do you think? What's your favorite aircraft?
I'm old school. Come on, I'm old school. 747. You got 4 engines, big airplane, pushes through the air. They don't go down. They just fly.
They just go.
If you lose an engine, who cares?
They'll keep going. Yeah,
keep going. So that's all I know. I know the 2-engine aircraft is the way of the future and how it's happening. And basically, they could fly with 1 engine. Those damn things got so much power nowadays. So, but back in the day, the 4-engine airplane was where it was at, and that's kind of what I still gravitate to.
What maybe tickles you guys for what's happening in aviation right now, or what's going on?
Just like I said, battling, trying to get people trained and back into the industry that we're behind on. Like I said, parts. We've done enough parts to keep the airplanes up in the air, or the engines for that matter. The engine shops are scrambling for material. So we've got people, parts. It's stressed in the industry right now, trying to get all this back up and running. It's going to take time. It'll work its way out, I believe. And we need Airbus and Boeing to produce new airplanes to fill some of the spots where the older airplanes are being pulled out. We need Airbus and Boeing to produce airplanes so we get more engines for teardown. I mean, that's pretty simple as that.
I've seen some cool video on air taxis that are hydrogen powered air taxis. They just got approved by the FAA. and essentially it's like an inner city helicopter.
Okay, that might be something that I can see. But
That's pretty well. Do you give that idea to Elon Musk, and then all of a sudden we've got drones that pick up your car and fly me from Kansas City to Denver? Instead of me getting there by having to go to the airport, I can get there through some other mode of aviation, where it's just maybe an autonomous drone. That literally
like
picks up
Amazon
my
was
car,
trying to do it with
takes-
their packagings as well. Yeah.
Right. Why can't you just pick up the car?
Or a person.
Right. Put me in a little pod.
A little cube, little
why
box.
carry the weight? That's where I say, why would you pick
Well,
up the
no,
car?
I like to eat. What are you saying? I don't understand what you're saying.
It's got to get there somehow. It's got to get to other food, right?
But I'm already looking at talking with some friends in Miami, going up to West Palm, going to a nice restaurant, taking the train, because we got the Bright Line now in Miami.
The new one, yeah.
The new one. So I'm already planning a trip to go up there just for going to dinner, and then they come back, and we're going to take an Uber from the train to the place, and then Uber back. It's happening. Like you said, I know we're not going to give up our cars, but maybe less.
It's nice to have the options as well, too. So it's just a matter of time, I think. Everything's time. You said 50 years, right? And impressiveness for the airplanes. 50 years from now, who knows?
Yeah,
Exactly.
That certainly I like the idea. I gravitate towards hydrogen power because the emission.
Cleaner, for sure. It's cleaner. Yeah.
Emitting water. Yes, it takes electricity. So you're burning coal or you're burning nuclear or something.
Yep.
You got something happening to generate that, but I do think that's for me, it's a pretty cool thing. Now, right now they have pilots. They have single pilot setup.
Yeah.
So the future will obviously be autonomous. I don't know that
AI.
I don't know that we need a pilot when if you can build the right safety things in. So
I think even what was it, Fred Smith from FedEx says you only have to have I don't know if I should quote him on this, but he said, talked about having a pilot and a dog in the cockpit.
Just to make sure he's
And the plane takes off and lands on its own, and they asked him, so the pilot's there for? He's just over there to check all the gauges and make sure everything's good. And then they asked him, so why is the dog in there? And they said, to bite the pilot if he touches anything. Because the planes take off and land perfectly every time.
he doesn't have to do anything.
Yeah.
So, Gabriel, we talked a little bit about the labor force in Miami. And one of the things that Jeff had mentioned is that you're really at maybe 55 or 60% capacity. If the volume of work increases, what's going to be your approach maybe to handling the workforce and how you guys are going to manage that?
We have meetings daily trying to manage the personnel and production, see where we're sitting, where we're going to be at, what the needs are, what's the goal for the month, stuff like that. If we realize we're going to have Jeff West sends us 10 engines and we're going to be a little bit behind, we always reach out to our payroll that helps us vet people. Or sometimes Jeff or David would go towards George T. Baker's aviation school in Miami and try to get talent from there, offer to train them, offer tools, stuff like that, try to get up ahead of it the best we can.
So do you guys have a collaboration with those schools?
Somewhat. I went to the school, so I go there and talk to them, and we talk and say, hey, I throw some people my way if you got some guys and we basically we're getting them before they got their license. We're getting them while they're still in school. We kind of work with them as far as, hey, tell me your hours you're going to school, and we'll work around your hours going to school so we can get some guys that are in training. Sometimes they got one license, sometimes they don't have any license, but at least they got some schooling behind them, so they know. Basically, the school teaches them what not to mess up.
Right.
And then we teach them what to do.
Yeah. And then we teach them what we need to do them from there.
Do you guys support any of the curriculum there?
We don't, because they have something already set up that they have to meet for the FAA. So we don't really get involved in that. Wouldn't mind doing something like that, but that would be a little bit more difficult to get going because they have their requirements to meet the standards of the FAA, and they do that. You're worth a heck of a lot more if you have experience to go along with that license. I've had guys come to me that had just had the license and they needed experience, and they looked for a job in the teardown business because they had no experience on jet engines whatsoever.
Well, thank you guys for being here. This has been great to have a conversation with you guys. I know we rely on Bonus Tech for a lot of our engine dismantles and helping service our customers in that marketplace. And this conversation was great and insightful, and I look forward to continuing to do work with Bonus Tech in the future.
Our pleasure, Patrick.
This has been a lot of fun. It's been great to do this with two people at the same time.
Nice to be first. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, I hope you have a great time at the game tonight, and hope your bellies are full and your voices are tired tomorrow morning.
Thank you for listening to our podcast, Nose to Tail. Please like and subscribe to our channel. Presented by Jet Midwest.